So this is a Tunisian hook. It's like a knitting needle with a hook on the end. Big long knitting needle type thing. There's a hook. And Tunisian crochet is a little bit different to ordinary crochet, as you can see. You need this big long hook because you're going to put stitches on it a little bit in the same way as you would with knitting. I've done a small length of chain there, but of course you can fit quite a lot along this hook. But I'm just going to do a few. I actually find this hook a bit unwieldy. It kind of gets caught under my armpit, but it's not my most favourite crochet, but the results are good. Results are interesting. So I've done a length of chain, and as with double crochet or single crochet if you're American, you insert your hook into the second chain and pull it through as normal. But you leave it there. You don't do the second pull through, and you do that all along your length of chain. Just insert into each chain and pull it through. You'd actually use a thicker hook than you normally would with ordinary crochet. Otherwise you end up with quite a stiff fabric and it's a bit harder to work if you use a smaller hook. This is double knitting yarn that I'm using. Yeah, and what size is it? 5.5 millimeter hook. Could actually do with one a bit thicker than this for double knitting, but we'll see how we go all the way to the end. Into that last one. Oopsie daisies, there we go. And then you've got to crochet them all off again. You start by just doing a little bit like knitting, but of course you've only got one hook, not two. So hook your yarn up, just pull it through that first one, just to start, and then all the way along you hook it up, pull it through two, pull that through two, and again hook it up, pull it through two, keep going all the way along. If you haven't got a very wide piece and you can fit them all onto an ordinary crochet hook, that's fine if you haven't got a Tunisian hook, if you're only making a small item, but you do have to be careful because an ordinary hook doesn't have a stopper on the end, so it's quite easy to drop your stitches off the other end. Alright, one chain to turn as you normally would when you get to the end. And as you go back, can you see all those upright threads? I'll just take my hook out so I can use that as a pointer. I'll maybe zoom in so you can see a bit better. There you go. See all these upright threads? Here, here, and here. Those are the ones you work into on your next row. So I've done one chain to turn, and then work into that upright thread there. And as before, whoops, just go along, hooking it through, hook your yarn through and collect all your stitches onto your hook. Oopsie daisy. This is why you need quite a large or thick hook, because If you had a thinner hook, it would be very difficult, a lot more difficult to get your hook in and under that upright thread there. Into that one. Right to the end, and then finally into that last little loop there. And the same again. To start taking them off, just take that through that first one once, and then start crocheting them off the hook, just pulling through 2 at a time. And keep doing that row after row, just for a basic Tunisian stitch. One chain to turn. We're not turning, actually, you don't turn with Tunisian crochet, just go back and forth. So this is what you end up with. Just basic Tunisian. I'm just going to zoom in on that for a minute. As you can see, you have all these upright threads. And there's a couple of things I like about Tunisian, and one is that if you're a cross-stitch fan, you can actually make a nice big blanket using Tunisian. And you've got all these neat little squares, which could be basis for doing cross-stitch. I'll just find a pen so I can show you. I can point better than with my finger. And you can do cross-stitch, so you do one part of your cross from that corner to that corner, and that corner to that corner, and you could do some very nice embroidery onto a blanket because you've got all these nice neat squares all laid out for you. Another thing I like about Tunisian is that, like ordinary crochet, it's very hard to ruin your work by dropping a stitch. If you drop a stitch with knitting, it can unravel all the way to the bottom, but with Tunisian crochet, although you've got all those stitches on there, if you were to drop any or lose any stitches, it wouldn't matter, because you just go into them again. If I were to drop the whole lot, if I were to put that in my bag and somehow, it's quite difficult with a hook, if somehow that hook was to come loose and come out of your work, unlike with knitting, if you did that, then it'd be very difficult to pick them all up again. But with Tunisian crochet, just pull them out and do that row again, because that will not undo any further down your work. It'll just be that one row that you lose. Something I'm often doing if I'm knitting, dropping stitches. I have terrible trouble picking them. Some people seem to have no problem doing that, but I just end up in a terrible mess. And anyway, that's what you end up with, something looking totally different to ordinary crochet, and really rather nice. Even if, as I say, if you use a nice thick hook, you have a nice flexible drapey fabric. If you use a small hook, it'll be very stiff and very hard to work. There's the back. Looks a little bit like garter stitch. That nice smooth front.